people have been talking non-stop over the past few days about one topic: the city that was allegedly discovered beneath the Giza pyramids using ground-penetrating radar. Images and news about it have been circulating all over social media. To summarize the story, a few days ago, a conference was held in Italy, and a group of researchers announced that they had discovered an entire city beneath the Pyramid of Khafre. They claimed to have found massive columns directly underneath the pyramid, as well as secret chambers buried deep underground, at depths of several kilometers. Now, to be fair, we hear claims like this from time to time, various theories about tunnels beneath the Giza plateau, hidden rooms under the Sphinx, and so on. So this isn't the first time we've heard something along these lines. But this time, things feel different. This time, the story is causing a huge stir. Everyone around the world seems to be talking about it. So the big question is, what's the truth behind this discovery? Why is it creating such a buzz? And most importantly, is it even real? Welcome. But before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. On March 15, 2025, 3 researchers held a press conference in Italy. They were Italian scientist Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa, Armando May from the University of Naples, and Scottish researcher Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde. They revealed that they had been working for a while on a project related to the Pyramid of Khafre, using advanced detection technology to study the pyramid and the surrounding area. The technology they used is called synthetic aperture radar, SAR. What makes SAR special is that it can study objects anywhere on Earth via satellite, without the need for physical presence or proximity to the site. It's typically used for geographic terrain mapping and aerial imaging, but this was the first time it had been used in the field of archaeological exploration. Using this method, the team remotely scanned the Pyramid of Khafre while staying in Italy, without traveling to Egypt, without permits, without setting foot near the site. All they needed was access to a satellite capable of supporting SAR, and they got exactly that through a satellite system called Cosmo SkyMed, a constellation of 4 satellites managed by the Italian Space Agency, ASI. By directing radar waves toward the pyramid and analyzing the returned data, they made a shocking discovery. According to the research team, they identified 8 massive cylindrical columns located directly beneath the Pyramid of Khafre. Each column is said to be over 600 meters tall, equivalent to the height of a 200-story building. To put that into perspective, the Pyramid of Khafre itself stands at only 140 meters, meaning the discovered columns are nearly 4 times taller. They also explained that the columns are divided into 2 symmetrical groups, each consisting of 4 columns, and beneath them lies a huge hollow chamber of around 80 cubic meters. Each column appears to have a spiral frame wrapping around it, similar to a helical staircase, and every one of them is said to contain an actual staircase leading to the secret chamber below. And it doesn't stop there. The chamber and the columns are connected to an extended structure that runs for more than 2 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. There's also an alleged network of massive tunnels linking all 3 pyramids, as well as channels and underground waterways. Understandably, everyone who watched the conference was left in a state of shock and awe. We're talking about a potential discovery that could completely change how we view ancient Egyptian history. It could open the door to countless new theories, such as the idea that the pyramids weren't tombs, but part of an energy-generating mechanical system, that there are hidden chambers beneath the pyramids containing lost treasures and ancient documents, or even that there was an advanced civilization predating the ancient Egyptians, responsible for building these massive underground structures, and the Egyptians simply came later and built upon them. So you can imagine, theories are flying everywhere. But before we get too excited or carried away by these mind-blowing possibilities, we need to stop and ask a very important question. How reliable is this study? Are the researchers' claims based on solid evidence? Because everything that follows will depend on the answer to that question. In short, and without too much introduction, there are many question marks surrounding the study announced by the Italian researchers. Why are we saying this? First of all, the results they presented during the press conference have not been published in any peer-reviewed journal to this day. In fact, there is no scientific paper at all, which means no expert in the field has reviewed or verified their claims, or even seen the details of the study. Even more surprising, if you trace the original source of the research images, you'll find they were first published by a friend of the researchers on his personal Facebook profile. Yes, really. He took the results and posted them himself. So this whole thing lacks the most basic standards of scientific professionalism. On top of that, the universities these researchers are affiliated with, like the University of Pisa and the University of Strathclyde, haven't even acknowledged the study. There's no mention of it on their official websites, despite both sites featuring other far less important topics. That tells us that even their own institutions aren't backing or promoting the study, even though they should be the first to do so if the discovery was truly significant. Now, regarding the methodology they used, although they've kept the details vague, the general approach they've described has drawn criticism from many experts. The study is based on the use of synthetic aperture radar, which they claim allowed them to detect structures deep beneath the Khafre Pyramid. But here's the thing, SR technology cannot penetrate more than a few dozen meters into the ground at best. And yet, they're saying they found structures at depths of 600 meters and even 2 kilometers. That's scientifically implausible using this method. That's why many researchers immediately rejected these claims. Dr. Lawrence Conyers, a professor at the University of Denver and an expert in ground-penetrating radar, told the British newspaper Daily Mail that the team's claims are highly questionable. He explained that radar signals cannot reach those depths and called the whole thing a massive exaggeration. Even stranger is that two of the researchers, Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, published a study back in 2022 about the Great Pyramid of Khufu in the journal Remote Sensing. And in that paper's summary, they explicitly said that SAR signals are weak when it comes to penetrating solid materials. So how do you go from saying this technology doesn't work for solid structures to claiming 3 years later that you used it to uncover the secrets of the pyramids? That contradiction has raised serious doubts. Now let's talk about Corrado Malanga, the lead researcher in this project. Even though he's a professor of chemistry, his personal beliefs strongly conflict with mainstream science. For instance, Malanga believes in alien abductions, and he claims that extraterrestrials helped build many structures on Earth. He also promotes ideas like stargates, hypnosis as a way to access hidden memories, and esoteric or fringe sciences. And these aren't just random accusations. He has actually written multiple books discussing these topics. So it's no surprise that many scientists in the academic community are highly skeptical of his research. And here comes the big question. If the study about the Pyramid of Khafre has so many question marks around it, why did it spread so widely? We can sum up the answer to that in 3 main points. First, when the research team decided to announce their findings, they made a smart move. They held a press conference and invited journalists and media personnel from everywhere. And since those people aren't specialists, they just took what was said at face value and published it, which is exactly what the researchers wanted. If they had invited scientific experts instead, the whole thing would have gone differently. There would have been debates, questioning, and pushback. Second, and also important, despite all the controversies surrounding Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, as we already explained, they did publish a previous study in a respected journal called Remote Sensing. And in that study, they claim to have found hidden chambers and passageways inside the pyramid, which is very similar to what the Scan Pyramids project found. That project involved researchers from Cairo University in collaboration with experts from Japan, Germany, Canada, France, and the US. And we actually talked about that discovery in our earlier episode titled Discovery of a Secret Passage Inside the Pyramid of Khufu. So the point here is, those two researchers do have real, legitimate studies. They've done solid work using proper scientific methodology. That's why their voice is being heard more loudly now. Third, one more reason the story spread so much is that a lot of people simply don't believe the pyramids were just tombs. There's a growing crowd of people who want to believe that the pyramids had other purposes, like generating energy, or being part of some advanced system. So they used this new claim to support those alternative theories. And the majority of the people who shared and promoted the story are not specialists either. Now here's another important point. It's actually not strange at all for there to be voids or chambers underneath the pyramids. Egyptologists themselves don't deny that. The real issue is with the exaggeration, claiming massive columns, chambers at extreme depths, and so on, without publishing any of it in a credible scientific journal, plus the fact that the researchers' own universities didn't back the study. In the end, we're not denying the whole thing completely. But any claim of this size needs solid, clear evidence, because as long as we're talking about theories, anything is possible. Whether the pyramids were power generators or built by a civilization other than the ancient Egyptians, it's all fine, as long as whoever makes such claims brings solid proof. And with time, the truth will reveal itself. That shocking news of today might be free tomorrow. We'll know the real story in due time, and if it turns out this whole thing deserves a full episode, we'll make one. That's it. We're done. If you made it this far, you're the real MVP. Leave us a like before you go so we know how many of you actually stayed to the end. And don't forget, if you've got episode suggestions, drop them in the comments.